Hello, my dears. Good afternoon. I hope that you're all doing well and enjoying the snow. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about another type of force which we call as force of friction. Previously, we talked about other different types of forces. We explained pull and push, okay, balanced and unbalanced, and we also, in the previous lesson, we categorized work or types of work, and we said that we have three types of work, and they were, what were they? Can you tell me? If you know that, please write them down. We have three types of works. And then we explained energy at the same time. But for today, we're going to start with a different type of force, which we call as what? As force of friction. As you can see in the picture in front of you, there is a man who's almost reaching the ground because the ground is slippery. There's ice, the ground is, or the floor is completely icy, just like how it will be in the next couple days, or for today actually, since it's snowing, this could happen as well. The ground will get slippery. As you can see, he is slipping, he's about to touch the ground, and it's because of what? Because of having least amount of friction. So friction can make you walk smoothly without having any problem, and it can cause problems for you as well. So let's see what friction means and how can this type of force cause us problems. Actually, friction is a force which tries to stop things sliding one another. This is true. It's a force that actually tries to stop things from sliding, okay? But this actually depends on the amount of friction that we have, okay? For instance, just like in the picture we explained in here, if this guy was walking just at the place of the car, as you can see, or in the place of the car, as you can see in the picture, he wouldn't have slipped actually. But since he is walking on the ground which is slippery, there is less friction because of the snow, it's more likely for him to touch the ground and to slip actually. So it depends on the amount of friction that we have. If you rub your hands together for about 30 seconds or more, sometimes it depends on the cold, your hands will definitely get warmer, and it's because of friction, okay? So the rubbing together of two surfaces, it's caused by friction, okay? When you walk, when you work, okay, when you touch something, most of the time when you write, these are all because of friction. So let's see how friction works. Friction only acts on moving objects, and it cannot make objects move. So unlike the other forces, friction does not make objects move. What it does, it only acts on moving objects. So the objects have been moving because of the use of the other types of forces, but friction is helping it, okay, is working on it. Either it's helping to stabilize it while they're working, or it's working, or to make what? To make, like by stabilizing, I mean the friction, the amount of movement to be in a stabilized way, to actually move constantly, let's say. It's because of friction, which happens mostly in the engines, or maybe for a person who's walking on a normal ground or in a sidewalk, to feel safe, or to actually move or to walk as a normal human being, it's because of what? It's because of friction. Why? Because the feet, or the shoe, let's say, touch the ground and it creates a type of friction. But on the slippery floors and icy floors, things might be different, okay? Because friction is what? Is the amount of it is less, while on the normal sidewalks which there's no water, there's no ice, things might change because of what? Because of the increase of friction. Okay, so friction changes the energy of moving objects into heat, energy as the object slow down. So as you can see, using a saw by a carpenter to cut the wood, uh, although the saw is quite sharp, but the friction that happens when you finish from cutting the wood, when the carpenter finishes from cutting the wood, if you touch the saw and if you touch the wood that has been cut, you can feel the heat. Okay, and it's happened because of friction. Okay, even if you look at the picture in your left side, which is about rubbing hands by a lady, you can see that if you do it just right now while I'm speaking, if you do the rubbing, you'll definitely feel the heat. You'll definitely feel that your hands, because of friction, will get warmer. Okay, so that's how friction most of the time work, or always work. So let's see why it's useful to have friction. Okay, you could not walk without friction between your shoes and the ground, just like I told you. If there is not a friction between your shoes and the ground, you cannot walk. Therefore, we need a more amount of friction in order to walk safely. Friction holds your shoe to the ground, allowing you to walk. Think how difficult it is to walk on icy or wet slippery floor where there is little friction. This beer over there that you can see, uh, that beer is like there's a sign which says watch for ice, but what happened? He slipped. Because of what? Because of less friction, because of little friction on the icy surfaces. The lady on the left side is also about to slip. Because of what? Because of little friction. So we have least friction on icy or wet slippery floors, and we have more friction on the ground in which you are walking on, when there's no ice, there's no uh, wet floor as well. So the other points that make friction to be useful is basically when you are trying to write on a piece of paper. Right now, if you're taking note, be thankful for having friction, because you could not hold a pencil in your hand without friction. It would slip out when you tried to hold to write. The pencil lead would not make a mark on paper without friction. So if there is no friction, you cannot write. If there is no friction, you cannot handle the pencil in your hand or hold it in your hand. Also for cars, the brakes in cars, bicycle and other vehicles use friction to slow down the stop. Why? Because we have the brakes. Okay, so the brakes are helping. There's a circular metal like behind the car tires, in which the brakes are going to touch it or touch them from the both sides, especially in the front sides. We also have them for the back sides as well, but mostly for slowing down vehicles we use the front ones. So what happens, they touch each other, friction happens, and because of having a very great amount of friction, the car brake will slow the car down or will actually stop it. When you pull the brake lever, sorry, of a bicycle, the brake pads of the bicycle push on the rim of the wheel. This creates friction, which makes the wheel turn more slowly. Okay, Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, we were here. Now, how is friction a problem? So behind all the useful points that we mentioned, or after all the useful points that we mentioned regarding friction, we also have it as a problem actually. So friction can be a problem as well. Friction makes things wear out. How? Because friction causes heat, moving parts in machines get hot when they rub together. So in a car engine, those cylinders, those pistons that are moving in the car engine, they need oil in order to be lubricated because there's friction happening in the machine or in the engine. Okay, in order for that a very particular engine to live longer, in order for that engine to actually work smoothly, we use oil so that it helps the friction to happen very easily. Okay, so oil is needed to do what? To lubricate the machines and allow their parts to move easily. What happens? Why this oil is helping the engine or the engine parts? The oil forms a thin layer on the surface of the parts so they don't rub together as much. So this layer, which is actually an oily layer made by the oil that you're putting into your car for lubrication, helps the engine parts to actually live for a longer period of time. Okay, let's have a look at a video which is about lubrication, which actually is an advertisement for Castrol, which is a type of oil or engine oil.
Modern engine oil. Incredible engineering that enables incredible performance. By lubricating the engine, the oil isn't simply keeping it running smoothly, it's protecting it and preventing damage. Oil begins its journey in the engine's sump, a reservoir of oil. From here, it gets pumped around the engine. The oil pump is vital to the life of the engine. It sucks oil up from the sump through a pickup tube, pressurizes it, and sends it around the entire engine through a circuit of oilways. From the pump, the oil travels to the oil filter, which removes microscopic particles and supplies clean oil to the rest of the engine. Clean oil flows to all the critical engine parts. The bearings, supporting the crankshaft and a continuous film of oil. Pistons, cooled down and kept clean by the oil's detergent action. And the valve train, protected by the oil's anti-wear system. Loads in the valve train are the highest in the engine. This is where the oil experiences the most stress. To avoid friction and damaging wear, these fast-moving metal components must be lubricated. The oil is the only thing preventing metal-to-metal contact. Returning to the sump via oil return channels, the oil completes its journey. This whole journey can take as little as 5 seconds.
So, according to that, according to the explanation provided in the video, you could see that oil is the only thing that's used for lubricating metal so that they don't wear away, because metal friction happens, but the only thing that protects these two metal when there's friction happening is oil. Okay, therefore lubrication is very important for the cars. Okay, so there are several factors that mainly affect friction. Let's see what they are. We have materials. Some materials will create less friction due to their surface. A rough surface will create more friction than a smoother surface, which is good actually. Weight. Things that are heavy will be subject to more friction. than things that are light. Surface area, so material, weight and surface area. If the area of the two objects rubbing together is large, it will create more friction. And liquids. The addition of a liquid can reduce friction by making the surface slippery. Dry surfaces tend to have more friction. So in the case of the engine, oil is considered as a liquid which actually reduces friction and doesn't let the two metal to touch each other that much, so that their parts don't wear away. So we have material, we have weight, we have surface area, and we have liquid that are the factors that can affect friction. Thank you very much for listening and for paying attention to the video. I wish you all have a wonderful day. Bye bye, dears.